Right, so right, so we're getting ready to go into the meetup. We're like an hour early, so we're gonna wait for everyone to turn up and then keep you guys posted in the video. Right guys, so we had a very enjoyable day. We've had many new faces there as well at the meetup today, so it's good to see people come out of their comfort zone a little bit more. Kent is the next meetup, which is at the end of this month, so I did hold a lot of people off from coming up to Manchester because they will be in Kent as well, so we enjoyed it, had some nice food, some really high level conversations as well. It's just good to see people that are aiming very high, and it's a good network of people to have as well. So yeah, until the next one.
Needs to hear this, but you guys need to subscribe to the Ibi Ansari YouTube channel, okay? Ibi Ansari on IG, okay? This guy, you wanna make some money? You wanna get your guapo? Ibi Ansari, Falcon baby.
So that's the Manchester meetup all wrapped up and done. Everything went brilliantly well. There was a lot of high level conversations as usual, and a lot of things that we discussed going into Q4 and also 2023, which is right around the corner, so get your goals in check if you haven't already. But we have the Kent meetup coming in a week or so, hence why I held up a lot of people from coming to this one. It went fantastically well either way. But I wanted to keep this portion of the video primarily towards originally a Q&A, but I thought, you know what, everyone's doing Q&A nowadays. You guys have heard it all. You know, how to be a successful trader and all sorts, but how do you actually become a terrible trader? And I think it's very important for you to understand that if you have aspirations of becoming a terrible trader, that is. So I've got some notes here that I wanted to run through, and I've found this through my own experience and also coaching people as well. Very key common traits. So there's quite a few here, so we'll start with the most important ones. Funding too early, which is one that is worth talking about, because a lot of people, you see, they think that getting funded is a bad thing, or that funding is a bad thing in itself. I think it's a fantastic thing. I think it's one of the best things that have happened to traders in recent times, but it can also be the most destructive thing that can happen to you if you don't know how to use it or when to use it. What happened before this whole funding thing was a notion was that people would either scale up a small amount of capital, which would take them a long extended period of time, and not everyone's built for that because it requires a lot of discipline, and not everybody that comes into trading is disciplined, hence why they don't get very far. But there was either that, or you could get third-party investors. Now, the access of capital is easier than it's ever been, and funnily enough, when you make something very easily accessible, people abuse it. Hence why the market is very difficult to trade, because there's no rules. The only rules that there are the ones that are set by yourself, and not everybody is actually self-disciplined, or they think that self-discipline is not really an important thing. But getting funded too early, what happens is, because you've got the access of capital now, and now you can go from a small amount to $1 million or $2 million within a small bracket of percentage return that you can make, 50-60%, something like that. In the grand scheme of things, it's not much, especially over the course of a year. Now apparently people can make that every single week and month, but because that's there and it's so easily accessible, people abuse it. So they rush into it when they're clearly not ready for it. If you can't manage a small amount of capital for a consistent and extended period of time and discipline yourself with correct risk management on that, forget it. You've got absolutely no chance on funded capital. No chance. You won't take it more seriously. One, because you have a fee that you can keep on paying. Even if you are ready, and I personally believe the best way to get ready is, one, having sufficient level of knowledge, which is subjective, but we specify that for the guys in the community as to what that actually is. A sufficient level of knowledge that you can track, and you can say, right, I know enough to actually, on paper, obtain profitability, and you can know that by simply going and testing what you know. And if you can obtain profitability in a simulated environment like backtesting, which I don't necessarily condone, that you need that to actually win, and you can see that, then the question is, why can you not replicate it and emulate that performance, on the live markets? And the reason is not technical, it is psychological. And I will say this again and again and again until people get it. If you can obtain profitability in a simulated environment, but you can't obtain profitability with the same level of knowledge in a live environment, the only missing link is an emotional involvement link or a psychological link. It's the only missing link there. There's no threat present to you when you're testing, but there is when you're live trading. So it all comes down to your discipline in the moment. So don't get funded too early, because you're only going to put yourself in more debt, you're going to lose all your confidence, and you're going to look like a complete idiot. So just don't do it. Second point is, what you should do is you should overcomplicate everything, right? Absolutely everything. How long it should take you, what you need to know about the market in order to succeed, that you need to know, you know, every single bit of price action and what it means, what every single candle entails and what it means. You want to know how many people are trading the market at that particular time. And people think that there is one way to trade the market, which is completely false. There are many different ways to trade the market that are profitable. Profitability lies in the hand of the trader, not necessarily the system itself. Of course, if you're trading a cheap little breakout system that you've learned off the back end of an ad, if the system that you're learning has been traded and tested for a very extended period of time, through many different circumstances and conditions in the market, you stand a very good chance. My point being is this: you don't need to know or be Einstein when it comes to reading the market. There's a lot of people that I know as traders that are far more knowledgeable than me, but they can't trade. Their equity curves look like ECG monitors, and that's not necessarily healthy. And why do you guys think that the marketplace of investors, of high net worth people, actually trust hedge funds or investment banks with their money? Because they know they're not going to mess around with it. They know that the people or the systems nowadays involved in trading their capital are actually going to be diligent and going to be well done and well thought through, not going to be erratic. So if you're erratic as a trader, forget what system you trade, by the way, because it's not going to make a difference. So that's one thing, overcomplicating everything. There's a lot of things that I'm dumb to when it comes to the market, but I can still trade, so I'm totally fine. You know, I don't care if the person opposite me knows 10 times more. If they're not performing and they're not disciplined as a trader, they're not going to last very long. So number 3 is misprioritizing psychology. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not saying that from day one that you have to learn psychology when it comes to trading, or day one that you have to start prioritizing it, because you won't understand the value of it anyway. So there's a 4-stage process that you should undergo as a trader. Number 1, gaining sufficient knowledge. Number 2, building your trading plan and your journal at that point. Number 3 is applying your trading plan. And there's actually a way to do that, because you can apply your trading plan and all your trades can meet your plan, but they can be trades of high risk and you can have an equity curve going straight downhill. So another misconception is that you following your plan is going to make you win as a trader. No, it's not. Following your plan well is going to make you win as a trader. And then the final bit is actually maintaining that performance on capital, which is all psychological. So there's a stage by stage process that you undergo, and there's a certain point in your trading where you will have to prioritize psychology, because if you don't, then it will always act as a roadblock in the way of you succeeding. We're not designed by nature to think probabilistically. We're just not. We're outcome driven machines as humans. So nobody can tell me that I'm coming to trading with the correct mindset, or that I need to work on my mindset at one point. Eventually you'll have to. So work on the technicals first, refine them, sharpen them down, but understand and use your eyes and your brain to acknowledge that when you've come to a stage where you know enough to actually succeed on paper and to attain profitability, and from a conceptual point of view you know what you need to know, then you got to start working on your mentality, because if you can't apply what you know under pressure, no chance. So next point, terrible self-review process. Another way, if you want to be a very terrible trader, you've got to have an inefficient and a very poor self-review process, which entails what? Tracking how many times you've won or lost or break even and leaving it at that. That's not a review process. You're just writing down how you performed, not why you performed the way that you have. So your process should entail, 1, how you performed, and secondly, why you performed that way, and thirdly, how you can either continue to perform that way if that was a good performance, or how you can mitigate against performing that way again if it was a bad performance. Very black and white and simple, but if you have a review process that goes in line with that, believe me, you'll win as a trader. But if you don't, and you want to be a terrible trader, then have a poor self-review process. And go into as much detail as you like, if you want to be a great trader, that is, in the end. Emotionally, technically, what there was there, everything from top down holistically. Next point of being a terrible trader is you're tracking the wrong metrics. So similar to my prior point, you think that what your percentage win or loss or your percentage metric was in terms of return at the end of the week or the month, you think that that's a definitive factor of your skill set. Maybe the starting stages, but when you've got to a point where you know what you need to know, as I mentioned before, and it's about application and, again, impartial thinking in the market, what you should be tracking instead is every week track how often you're sticking to your plan. It should be 100% every single week. If not, you've got work to do. Of those trades that you took that met your plan, what quality of trades were they? Then at the end of the month, you got to look at, okay, my entire 4 trading weeks in this month, 1, how often have I stuck to my plan? And secondly, over these portion of trades, let's say it's 10 trades, what percentage of them were high quality trades, meaning low risk? If a lot of them were high quality and low risk, well done. That's the metrics you got to track, and if you keep tracking them metrics, eventually you'll scale up, guaranteed. And finally is an unprofessional character. How do you dress when you go to negotiations or meetings or those kind of things? How do you carry yourself? How do you speak? And all these kind of things. How do you respond to circumstances in your life? You've got to do so in a professional format, because if you don't, then you'll have the same response and performance, if you like, in the market, and you won't really get far that way. So if you do want to be a terrible trader, you've got to have an unprofessional character, and that's a really important point to note. There's nothing really much more else I can say on that. These are all the main points that I'm wanting to wrap up. So again, hopefully after this video you acknowledge what it takes to be a terrible trader and you can be well on your way. If you want to be the opposite, just simply do the opposite of everything that I've said here. and I'm telling you, it'll change the game for you, both positively or negatively, depending on which side you want to choose.